Hello, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I've got an exciting project planned for the month of April. And as you see, I've got a number of contenders here together that I've been planning on doing a shootout between some of the most popular and really the best options in wide-angle zooms for the Canon mount. And so that includes the Canon 16 to 35 millimeter f2.8L Mark II, and then also the newly released last year Canon 16 to 35 f4L IS. And then also the new Tamron 15 to 30 millimeter f2.8 DI VC USD lens. And two of these lenses, the Canon 16 to 35 f4 and the Tamron 15 to 30, I've already reviewed along with another option here just to give you a kind of a size perspective, and that is the Rokinon 14 millimeter f2.8. But I regretted the last time that I had the Tamron in hand, and it was a quick review period because it was a pre-release copy and it needed to get around to various other reviewers. And so I only had a brief period of time, and so I couldn't arrange to have these Canon contenders on hand during that time. And a number of you have contacted me looking for a direct comparison between these lenses. And so I've arranged for that to happen this month. I've already been spending a couple of weeks with the two Canon contenders here and getting reacquainted with the 16 to 35 f4L, and then also getting to know the Canon 16 to 35 f2.8L because I had not previously reviewed or used that lens. And so in today's video, we're just going to kind of give you an idea of what our objectives will be as we move forward into this comparison, and also give you an idea both visually and by the numbers how these numbers or how these various lenses compare. And so starting with the oldest of our trio of true contenders, the Canon 16 to 35 f2.8L. It was introduced back in, I believe, 1997, and so it's been around obviously much longer than the others. It runs today, it retails for about $1,699 at B&H Photo. It has an 82 millimeter front filter thread, and it does take traditional filters. And this copy, a newer copy, it has Canon's newer center pinch cap, which I was happy to see. It is 4.39 inches long, or 111.6 millimeters, which actually makes it the shortest of our trio of lenses, and it weighs at 635 grams. And as you can see, it has a removable lens hood, but unfortunately it's like some of Canon's earlier ones like the 17 to 40L, to where it is a fairly useless lens hood. It takes up a lot of room. It's really wide, and so it takes up a lot of room, extra room in your bag. And so as a result, it often gets left behind. And so that's not my favorite design there. But the overall build of this lens is well known at this point. It's been fairly durable. It's been used by a lot of professionals because it has an L series build quality and has fairly good optics. And we'll take a closer look at that as we go. One other statistic to remember on this lens is the maximum magnification. It's in the middle of the pack here at a 0.22 times maximum magnification ratio. Our second contender is the Canon 16 to 35 f4L IS. Many of you may have read or seen my previous review of this lens. It was a lens that I liked a lot. It's got a lot going for it, and it's helped to correct a lot of the objections that many photographers had to Canon's previous wide-angle zoom lenses. And so it has very good image quality, wide open. Many have referred to it as prime-like image quality. It has an image stabilizer. Its biggest disadvantage in this comparison is that it has a maximum aperture of only f4. And so it is an f4 lens. It has a 77 millimeter front filter. It has a removable lens hood, and was one of the first early lenses to use Canon's new design, where there is a little tab there that you need to click to remove the lens hood. It has a 77 millimeter front filter thread, and also I should say on this lens hood is that it is a much more practical design, much easier for reversal and storage than what that of the 2.8 version of the lens is. And so it is just a hair longer than the f2.8 version. It is 4.4 inches or 113 millimeters. It weighs the least of our trio here at 615 grams. And it has the highest maximum magnification at 0.23 times maximum magnification. As you can see, comparing the two, the overall design is quite similar between these lenses, and from a little bit of a distance it would be easy to confuse them. But if you look closer, there is a few distinguishing things about them, but overall they are very similar in overall length and overall weight, and a nice sturdy design for both of them. Now, I brought this Rokinon out just as a kind of a visual comparison. As you can see, it is the shortest and it is the lightest of the trio. Its design is actually a little bit more like that of the Tamron in that it has a fixed or permanent lens hood that's built into the design, and it has a bulbous front element like the Rokinon. And I've previously reviewed this lens and still consider it to be one of the best value lenses, value alternative, as long as you can deal with some of its significant drawbacks, but it produces some brilliantly dramatic images and has, at 14 millimeters, it has the widest angle of view here. And just to break that down for you, the Canons both claim a 108-degree angle of view. The Tamron has a 110-degree angle of view, but this Rokinon has a greater than 115-degree angle of view, which makes it actually wider than either the Nikon 14-24 or by a good margin also even Canon's 14 millimeter prime. And so it really has a very wide angle of view. It's not a true contender here in the sense that, as I've already demonstrated, its optics are not quite as good as what the Tamron is, but really we're doing a zoom comparison and an autofocus lens comparison. And I know that for many of you, you just aren't interested in messing with a manual focus prime lens. So the Tamron is the largest, and you can certainly feel it in your hands. It is a heftier, wider design, and it certainly is considerably heavier than either of the Canon options. It weighs in at 1,100 grams, and so it weighs a lot more. It is longer, and of course it has a fixed lens hood as part of its design. So it is 5.7 inches long and or 145 millimeters in length. Now you can see that with the lens hood affixed, the overall length of these lenses is not all that different. But of course the difference is that the lens hood from both of the Canon options can be removed, and that makes them a significantly smaller lens. And meanwhile, the lens hood on the Tamron is a part of the actual design. I should have mentioned previously, but the Canon 16-35 f4L, it retails at $1,199, which is a very good value for the quality of the lens. The Tamron is also $1,199 and is arguably an even better value because it has both the image stabilizer, Tamron's vibration compensation, and it's also an f2.8 design. And furthermore, while it may not seem like a big deal just on the pure numerical sense, the difference between having a 15 millimeter widest focal length compared to a 16 millimeter is significant, and you can tell that obviously in the design of these. These have a great advantage of being able to use traditional screw-in filters on them. The Tamron, because of that bulbous front element, it will require an aftermarket system that doesn't currently exist at the moment, but already there's been a lot of noises about such a system coming to be. It took a while, but one did come onto the market for the Rokinon, and actually there's a few alternatives at this point. And so I am very confident because of the early buzz on the Tamron and also a lot of really great reviews on this lens that it is going to sell a lot of copies and it will have an aftermarket system. But of course, as you know, aftermarket systems that use square filters, they tend to be far more cumbersome and less convenient than using a traditional screw-in type filter. But that wide angle of view is a big deal, as is the large aperture combined with the image stabilizer, which makes it the first of its kind to do that. And its maximum magnification is 0.20 compared to 0.22 and 0.23. However, I've noted already from using these lenses that while it has the slightly less maximum magnification, it actually produces the most pleasing images at minimum focus and creates a better bokeh or blur effect. So looking beyond just the build of these actual lenses, A couple of other things. Here are some of the things that I want to see happen or to kind of prove during the process of this comparison period. And first of all is resolution. I found the resolution to be exceptional of the Tamron, and of course it is well documented the exceptional resolution of the F4 LIS. And so I want to compare these in particular side by side and see how resolution holds up. And of course, I've already discussed bokeh. We will be looking at that as a part of it. Also contrast. I felt like the Tamron exhibited really exceptional contrast that made the images seem to have an extra snap from it, which was part of why I personally was very drawn to this lens during my review period. And so when I compare them side by side, I want to know if that amazing contrast from the Tamron still shows up. Over the past couple of weeks, I've certainly noted that the contrast on the F4L is noticeably better than the f2.8L Mark II. And also angle of view. I want to see if there is an actual field difference, apparent field difference in the angle of view created by the 15mm compared to the 16mm, and let you see how that really plays out. Also, I've already begun testing these lenses for astrophotography. I did the same with the Tamron when I had it before, but I like to compare them all at the same time. My early conclusions say, and others have also verified this since I've published my own findings, that this is definitely the better lens of the three, and perhaps even of the four, although this is an amazing contender for that when it comes to that. And so I want to do some direct comparisons for that. Also, of course, these tend to be multi-purpose lenses. If you're looking for solely landscape purposes, the f4 aperture is not necessarily a big deal on the Canon, and in the fact that it can use traditional filters, you'll probably find that it is the logical choice. But if you are looking to do more with wide-angle use, then just shoot landscape. And that would include, of course, if you are an event photographer or a street photographer, shooting in low light conditions, shooting weddings. Obviously, there are a number of photographers that have elected to stay with or even to purchase this lens despite the superior resolution and contrast of the f4 because they feel that they need an f2.8 aperture. And so we're also going to be looking at how these lenses work in that kind of scenario and if that is a significant factor or not. And so there are a number of things that we're going to be looking at. We'll compare them in landscape settings, as I've noted, some kind of close focus settings, some event type settings, and just generally kind of get a sense of which one of these lenses is producing the best bang for your buck. Now, in the comments below, if there are other things that you would like me to kind of check for during this review period, this is the time to weigh in and to write in the comment section things that you would like to see me test during this review period. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm Dustin Abbott. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.